Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first IMO podcast called In the Know with IMOs. So I am the secretary of IMO, Isabel Eliatim, and I will pass it along to everyone else to introduce themselves.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Nguyen, and I am the outreach liaison.
My name is Jeff Bomblanco. I'm the sergeant at arms.
And my name is Om Patak, and I'm the president.
Okay, so we are a student-led nonprofit organization here at UCF. If you don't know who we are, come check us out, and I will pass it on to Om to talk a little bit more about who we are.
And yeah, kind of the gist of what we do is we do on medical service trips to different areas of the world that are medically underserved. And on these trips, we'll volunteer and partner with the local hospital or organization and do medical and non-medical volunteering, maybe some shadowing experiences as well. And on these trips, that really accomplishes two goals, one of which is helping out in these areas that really do need that medical help, and then also just improving our own cultural awareness, because as many of us would like to go into healthcare, having that cultural awareness, if you're looking to practice in America, is especially important because America is such a diverse melting pot of all cultures, and cultural awareness can help actually lead to better treatment of patients and getting people the help that they need. So those are the two kind of aspects that we really push on our trips. And yeah, along with that, we do a lot of local volunteering as well with various homeless organizations and hospitals. And we have like shadowing opportunities, social opportunities, and different opportunities to help you further along in your career, or if you're not looking to go into medicine, just to help out in the local community. So yeah, I like to think of IMO as a service club first, rather than a medical club, so that it's really open to anyone to join. And along with that, we do really consider ourselves a family. All of our members are very tight-knit, and we're always happy to help you with any help that you may need.
And also, I'd like to say we have weekly general body meetings every Monday, usually around 7:30. And then the purpose of these general body meetings can vary a lot. A lot of the time, we're focusing on education around health and culture. We also do things like teaching vital signs. We host workshops for basic life support and stop the bleed certifications, and then other things like that as well. So yeah, we're pretty active, which is really cool. And we love getting new members. And it helps us run everything because, like Om said, we're an international nonprofit, national nonprofit, and we're all student-led, right? So when we're doing these international and domestic trips, it's us planning everything with the help of our directors who sort of like, they're UCF students and help us run things. So the more involved we are, the closer everyone is. It helps everything stay very fluid.
Yeah, so I feel like when we were doing our interviews throughout the year, a lot of people asked us how we each got started with IMO. Do we kind of just want to go like one by one?
Yeah. We should also explain what our job is.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So our people are familiar.
Okay.
Cool.
So, I mean, Sarah, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so my job as the outreach liaison, I am overseeing volunteer events, mentorship, and social events this year. So all the events that you guys attend in person, I've been working with my directors on planning those. And so my job, outreach liaison, is really to promote like the more fun social aspects of IMO, as well as the volunteering and service aspect. So it's very hands-on. I think that's pretty much it. It's pretty self-explanatory, but yeah, check it out. Check out our event calendar. That's where most of our stuff is.
Where can they find the event calendar?
Oh yeah, you can find it on imoucf.org. There's an events tab. If you click on it, there's a whole calendar that's updated with everything that we have for the month.
How did you get started with IMO?
So I was a freshman at UCF, and honestly, like I was a commuter. So my heart goes out to all commuters that come to UCF, and I didn't really have like a basis yet to really hang out with people, you know, after classes and form that freshman bond. And so I ran into former president Lucas Vieira, and he was at tabling, and he's like, "Yo, you know, have you heard of us before?" I was like, "No." And then he's like, "Well, we're IMO, blah, blah." He gave the whole spiel. And I was hesitant because I was like, bro, they meet every Monday at 7 p.m. That's crazy. But I took a shot, and then I went to the first GBM, and I've been going to every GBM since. So I really think that IMO is a family, even though it's kind of cliche. The people that I met in this organization are just so, we come from so many different backgrounds and have so many unique stories, and I just think that we're just a wholesome group overall. So, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Lucas Vieira.
Shout out Lucas.
No, he got me into this, too.
He recruited pretty much everyone, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, next I'll go since we're sort of going in this direction. I'm the sergeant at arms, so that's an interesting title. It's not super descriptive of what I do. So my main role is to be in coordination and planning for all of our trips. So this year we're doing 5 trips. In December, we'll be going to New Orleans in India, and then next spring, we're going to Puerto Rico twice, one during spring break and one in May, and then we're also going to Turkey, which will be our first trip there. So my job consists of speaking with these international contacts, planning the trips, getting the flights, the itineraries, interacting with members, so all the paperwork is done through UCF Global, getting funding for these trips through student government, and also budgeting for those trips, so we have that cost throughout the year. That's really my main responsibilities. I also have other things that I do when I'm floating around. And then as for our directorships, I'm overseeing cultural ethics and health training. And so those two things are focusing on health trainings. What they do is focus on like critical health issues and main health topics that we want to talk about related to sort of the clinical medical side of the regions that we travel to. And what cultural ethics does is they focus on those societal and ways that people live their lives and how they sort of share knowledge with one another on their day-to-day basis. And so we'll work together. We'll do language workshops where we have our one for Marathi coming up on November 14th, which will be exciting. Yeah, so that'll be really cool. We'll be able to practice the Marathi because when we're in India, we'll actually be interacting with patients. So it's important we have a fundamental understanding of the language so we can help them with volunteering and stuff, as well as shadowing. So culture ethics will also do presentations about these things. Health training will have their presentations. And then we also work on trip packets, which is usually this big printed out packet, either digitally or in paper. And that lets everyone know everything they need for planning for the trip, things they need to pack, and all that sort of information relevant important locations like the embassy, addresses, emails, stuff like that we also sort of put together leading up to our trips.
Awesome. So yeah, as president, it's mainly just oversight. I kind of oversee everyone on the board. Also, I'm very focused on like the growth of the club, so finding new opportunities for our club members and anyone that wants to get involved with the club to kind of expand. So, working with different organizations, contacting different people and things like that. But mainly just oversight. And, I get to see everyone's face at all the GBMs, which is always the best.
I mean, I'm secretary, as I said before. My main thing is like social media, marketing, historian. So I've been really trying to implement just like consistent posting on our social media this year, recaps of all of our events. Like we really do try to get pictures of everyone that comes to our events and just like showcase them on our social media just to try to grow us as an organization, because I feel like we have such amazing goals and like things that we do. Like we have projects internationally that we do. Like we've helped to fund a cistern in pharmacy in Haiti, which is insane. So I feel like our social media needs to reflect that good work that we're doing. And then another thing I wanted to implement as secretary this year was this podcast. So, I mean, thank you guys all for being here. I'm really glad we're able to do this right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been in this organization since my freshman year. It was also like at opening night of UCF. If you guys are UCF students, you probably know what that is. And yeah, I just saw the board there kind of telling us what IMO is about, and I was like, that aligns perfectly with my goals and what I want to do in the future in the medical field. So yeah, that's really how I got into it.
Awesome. And
How did you get into it? Yeah.
I came into UCF as a history major. I wanted to be a professor and teach about history. And I did that for about a year or so. I studied, the ancient Near East, Roman Republic, these sort of topics when I was studying history. And I picked up an archaeological minor. My sister studied anthropology here at UCF. She now works at the University of Pennsylvania in their museum, which is really cool, UPenn. So I sort of had that approach of history and archaeology as a background. And the more classes I took, I began learning more about sort of modern anthropology, medical anthropology, which is the study of health and illness, the way in which we perceive illness, then also like how people navigate and negotiate healthcare systems. And so I took a class about medical anthropology, and through that class, and at this point I'm like a sophomore, I learned about a global health internship, which is what we do here at IMO. Our global health internship is a 3-credit-hour internship in which we do interviews and we choose someone who has an anthropology major or a medical anthropology minor. They travel with IMO to one of our international trips or domestic trips. We've had interns travel with us to Puerto Rico. And then sort of throughout that semester, you work with one of the medical anthropology professors closely. You do literature review. You create your own interview guide and research question. And then when you're with IMO, you conduct qualitative research, so mostly interviews. It's a really awesome experience. You come back and then you write a report about your data. And so it was a really awesome experience. And I learned about it through a friend in the organization. His name is Tyler. We did improv comedy together. And so he was telling me about it. I was like, I didn't know it was an organization, like a club, an organization. And so I went to the last GBM of spring 2022. And I was like, this seems kind of cool. And at this point, I was an anthropology major. I transitioned from like history arc to anthro with a history minor. And then that next semester, spring, I applied for the internship, didn't get it, but joined the organization. And then from there, I was super involved. And it's definitely changed my life a lot because 2 years ago, I didn't have any interest in doing medicine at all. I always mention that. And now I want to do an MD PhD program with medical anthropology and medical school. So that's sort of my journey.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
And yeah,
Good luck with that.
Yeah, when I'm needed. Competitive programs. If I don't get in, I'll just try medical school first and then go back.
yeah. For me, my story isn't as interesting. It's very similar to Sarah. Like
I'm just weird.
oh yeah, you are. Like I was walking one day and I saw the table and I was like, man, I gotta get involved in something. Actually, I saw their table at opening night, IMO's table. Opening night is like the event that they do in the stadium where all the RSOs table. And I was speaking, shout out Lucas again. I spoke with him and he got me really involved in the club. So I was like, might as well go to the meetings. I got really invested in the club after that. And I was able to go on like the New Orleans trip, like my first semester. And that was a very, heart-filling trip. So it just got me really passionate about like the work we do. And I wanted to continue my role in the club.
Amazing. Okay, everyone. So I sent out a form to our members and I asked them to ask us any questions that they are intrigued about. So shout out to all you guys who asked us questions. Okay, I'm gonna try to find some good ones.
I see a real silly one.
Do it. Okay. So what is each of our favorite songs and why? Wait, I don't
A favorite one song.
Favorite one song.
Wow, that's crazy.
Okay,
Yeah,
wait. I feel like I
challenging.
know mine. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go with "Love Yours" by J. Cole, just because I feel like I love first of all, I love J. Cole, and then I love how it's just like love what you have, like be grateful for what you have, and I listen to it when times are bad. I'm like, just love yours. Love
That's
yours.
very wholesome.
Cool. For me, I don't know, like all time is tough.
Yeah.
Right now, Supernatural by New Jeans. If you know, you know.
Yeah. Sent an Instagram reel to our group chat, Supernatural, like 3 days ago. For me, it's hard for me to choose like an all-time one song because my
Yeah.
music taste is all over the place.
Facts.
But recently, I've been listening to a lot of Hosier, who's an
Okay.
Irish musician.
Love him.
So I like "From Eden" is one of my more favorite songs
I
by
love that
him.
song.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one.
Amazing. My music taste is also all over the place, but I am also getting into New Jeans, and I love "Ditto" by New Jeans right now.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm so like not put onto that. You guys need
I
to.
gotta- we gotta get you on
Super
K-pop.
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
my gosh.
uncultured
Always a
right
bop.
now.
I also listen to a lot of Japanese city pop.
Yeah.
I remember Sarah and I were when we were
yes.
making the opening night poster board for this semester's opening night. We were in like the night circle computer room, like printing everything out. We were just blasting like
Miki Matsubara.
Mickey Matsuba.
We've all been on a trip with IMO, so which trip that you've been on has been your favorite? And maybe say like your favorite memory from it or something?
It's also really hard.
I'll go first.
Okay.
So my favorite trip for me was when we went to India in last winter. Particularly because I planned that trip. Like I saw it from like its inception as an idea all the way to like, oh my gosh, we're actually going on the trip. We're actually at the airport. But it was very, very, very different for me because my family is from India and have that Indian background. So going there and like seeing a group of people that I know from this part of the world going there, it was like two worlds colliding for me. And so with that, just seeing like the medical experience there because I hadn't really had a chance to like be in like a hospital or stuff there. So seeing that medical experience and how it is and how like they take care of their patients and stuff, it's very, you can tell how much those like medical professionals care. And so because of that, it gives you like a different outlook on kind of medicine that, that service aspect is still present all over the world, because especially in America, you look at like the healthcare system and the many like ups and downs of it, particularly monetarily. But then you look at their healthcare system and you see how dedicated to service and care they are that, it really opens your eyes and shows you that aspect still exists in medicine. So that's why I'd say that was my favorite trip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard for me. Been to Puerto Rico twice with IMO and been to India. I'm like ethnically Puerto Rican, so it's really cool to go to Puerto Rico and do that volunteering work and service where I can be able to meet everybody. Then also with India, it was an incredible experience because on that trip I didn't technically go as an IMO member. I went as the global health intern to the Department of Anthropology. And so, like almost saying, it was such an enlightening experience because I'd never been that far east before, right? I'd never been to Asia. And for me, it was like a culmination of a semester of research combined with being able to interact with incredible people, and then also all my friends in IMO, and then probably well over 20 interviews of doing research.
Yeah, you did a lot of research
I
for that
I had a
trip.
lot of data, and then sort of filing through everything that following semester, and then making my report. It was so informative. I feel like I learned so much. But it's hard for me to choose a favorite. I think the first Puerto Rico trip in spring 2023 is really special to me because that's when I met so many people that ended up being like really close friends throughout IMO. It's the first time I met first time I really got to know Maria, who was our previous vice president. I got to grow a lot closer with like Michael Hahn, who's now graduated, Tyler and Victor, were two people I met doing improv comedy who were also in IMO, and then that was an incredible bonding experience. So I think that trip was probably the thing that cemented for me that I wanted to go into medicine and continue with like this global health thing. So I think for me that's one of the more impactful things.
Awesome.
I love it. Well, gosh, this is so hard to choose. Since Om already talked about India, and I really love India, I'm going to talk about Puerto Rico. So I also went to Puerto Rico. I went with Om and Jeff here. And oh my gosh, I would say like the amount of joy and like just like generosity there is so contagious, as we see with a lot of places that we visit as well. But Puerto Rico is, I think, a unique situation because obviously they are geographically disadvantaged. They're constantly battered by these natural disasters, and they're kind of like on the back burner in terms of like the resources they get from the U.S., which is what we learned there. We were shadowing at their hospital. But despite all these challenges, they're so resilient, and they're just so happy to share what they have and to educate, about their culture and, have you really get immersed in it. And I think like one of my favorite things, like honestly, I think we were dancing every day. Is it on our TikTok? You were doing like this dance.
Oh my gosh.
It is.
Was it you and Luis?
Me and Luis. Shout out Luis.
We were sightseeing that day, and then we just did like a whole TikTok. And then like, there's this one night when we had dinner, and then we were just like dancing with everyone else there. It was insane. It was crazy. But I think Puerto Rico was just, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just so fun. It was so like, I think enlightening when you volunteer and then you see that there's like 2 janitors running a whole nonprofit building, and it's been like that for several years. And when they see us come there, they're so appreciative. And I think it was like when Jeff went during his first trip, at least, the work that they did cleaning up the hospital in 1 week was worth like 3 months
Yeah,
of
3 or
cleaning
4
up.
months.
And
Yeah.
it was a very similar situation when we went to like United Way in Puerto Rico. So I kind of suck at describing my experience, but you just had to be there. It's very, how do you say it? You just connect with your IMO members on a different level, and you guys really become family during that time.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you. You don't suck.
Dang.
You're doing good.
Thank you.
Gosh. Okay, so I've been on 2 trips with IMO so far. I've been to Brazil, which was in my freshman year, and then Peru, which was spring break of my sophomore year. And they were both so special to me. Like, both of those trips are definitely like in my top 5 life experiences. Like, these IMO trips are actually insane, like just crazy. I would say that I would probably say Peru is my favorite just because of the team that we had on that trip. Like, the group of people that we had was so amazing that there was not a single day that I wasn't physically like crying of laughter. Like, all day, every day, I was just crying of laughter because it was just like such an amazing group. And that's how I feel like IMO always is. Like, everyone is just very like-minded and like gets along very well. But also, like, I want to be a plastic surgeon, and the people in the hospital know that, or like I had mentioned that. And obviously, like, specialties are subject to change as I gain more experience. But because I knew that that's something I was interested in, they actually like took me in to see 2 rhinoplasties back to back, which was so insane. I actually learned so much from it, and like I was like, okay, like I could kind of see myself doing that. I don't know. So I would say probably, and we went sandboarding, which was crazy. Like, we just did so much cool stuff. So I would say Peru.
Yeah, I think one of the parts that we all spoke about on these IMO trips is how much everyone grows just within the organization, which is so impactful. And then also like that combination of service and learning you know, like the content of the trips can change sometimes. Like with India, Indian the first time was very shadowing focused. So we were able to learn so much and see really how medicine was practiced. But with things like our New Orleans and Puerto Rico trips, it's more service based. And as of recently, we've been able to work with Orlando Health and Dr. Center Hospital in San Juan and Carolina, and we can get into those hospital settings. But it's just such an incredible experience where you're getting to connect with everyone. And even if they're not doing medicine, we're all here to serve, right? To help people around the world. And I think that's what really brings everybody together.
For sure.
Awesome.
I'm wondering, like, since we're talking about trips, should we segue to like a short trip safety segment?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely do that segue. The segue's
Okay.
happening. This is the segue.
This is the segue.
I have a couple of bullet points pulled up, and we're just going to sort of generally discuss them.
Yeah.
So
I
with-
mean, I feel like we could talk about this just from personal
We
experience.
could. So first off, with the trip safety segment, I want to focus on like when we're in the airport and travel. Because especially with our India and our upcoming Turkey trip, Turkey will be a bit more straightforward because we're going to fly direct with Turkish Airlines. But with the India trip, we're going to go from MCO, which is the Orlando airport, into JFK, then one in New York to Dubai, Dubai to Mumbai, Mumbai to Sambhajinagar, which is the city that we shadow and volunteer in. So that's 4 flights
Yay.
both ways. It's approximately 20 hours of time in the plane, and about with our flight, like maybe around 10 hours, 12 hours layover off the top of my
Don't
head.
let this scare you guys. It's
4
still
flights,
worth
5
it.
airports.
4 flights, 5 airports. Yes, it's definitely worth it, 1,000%. And you get to watch. I watched Bahubali, which is one of my favorite Bollywood movies, like 4 times, almost right next to me. Yeah, he'd wake up and it'd be like 30 minutes earlier in the film, and he's like, "Why'd you rewind?" I'm like, "No, I'm watching it again."
Wakes up, you're fluent.
Yeah. So it is a really good opportunity to get to know everybody on the flights. But definitely when we're in the airports, especially because I wager most of us haven't been to the airport in Dubai or Mumbai. Maybe some of us may be in JFK, but it's really important that we're prepared for these. So that means printing out your passport information. What we as trip leaders will do is prepare a folder with all of your information in that, like your itinerary, any other sort of relevant information we'll have in that on us. But we also want you guys to have a pair. So when we're traveling, we always have that relevant information necessary. It's really important to stay as a group and to move with haste. Depending on the flight, we may only have like 2 hours to get from terminal to terminal. And then when we're going internationally, it can slow things down a bit. So definitely when we're traveling as a group, we got to keep in mind that we have to move with focus and stay together.
Right. And like that security, like that backup, having all your backup documents and stuff. Like my dad told me once, like when you're ever in a foreign airport, remember, you are like have like the least amount of rights in that time right there. Because you're not a citizen of that country. You're like not even visiting that country on a visa or anything. You're in the airport. So literally, if anything goes wrong, like, oh, your passport fell out of your pocket or something, or like someone stole your passport or
stuck.
something, like
You're
there is
done
nothing
for.
you can do unless you have like backups in place, like having all that information and whatnot. So having all that is very vital when traveling, especially internationally. But yeah, and then the other thing is, like Jeff pointed out, sticking together. These airports, like, and these are like the biggest airports in the world.
Yeah, think about how the population density in Mumbai is about 10 times that of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Just for reference for
So, like,
Americans.
And you imagine like the airport there, the airport in Dubai, the airport in New York, even on our other trips, like even like the Istanbul airport in Turkey, even the
Yes.
Orlando airport is one of the busiest airports in the world. So you have a bunch of people around you that don't care who you are. They're just looking to get from their point A to point B, and you're looking to like go on your trip. So if you separate off and like the group or whoever cannot find you, you're kind of on your own. And if we're in a foreign airport and we don't know like where we are, things can get really dicey. So sticking together as a group is probably the most important thing on any IMO trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, honestly, just use common sense to the maximum. Like,
Common sense isn't always common.
That's
It's
true.
very important to keep in mind.
That's
Good quote.
very
You
true.
said that, Socrates?
Socrates? Yeah, I think probably Aristotle. Last time I spoke to him, he told me that.
Okay.
So one of the ways we try to keep everyone in a group is we usually have at least 2 to 3 group leaders, sometimes more. And then with some of our international trips, we have liaisons. For our India trip, Om is our liaison and also a trip leader. But for our Turkey trip, Eric Mete, who's the president of TSA, will be our liaison for that trip, who I've been working with to plan this Turkey trip. So we'll have like 3 trip leaders and a liaison for that. what we'll always do is usually half of the troop leaders in the front and half in the back, so we can sort of create a perimeter around the members. And then we also do, when we're at the garage in Orlando before we even get to the MCO airport, is we give everybody a number, have them memorize that number. Then throughout the trip, multiple times, we'll be like, count, count, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, everyone will list off their number to make sure that we still have everybody.
Yeah.
And so anytime we're about to get in any mode of transportation, we'll do a count. And anytime we leave a mode of transportation, we'll do a count. So
Right.
there's nothing, no one's lost in the process.
All right, so another big thing on IMO trips is being adaptable. I can count off the top of my head like 2 trips I've been on where, you know, the schedule has changed instantly and everyone on the trip has to be ready for like almost your entire day to change. And it's obviously factors that aren't in our control because, you know, like Jeff does such wonderful work, like planning out the trips as much as we can in advance, like down to like the hour. But, you know, sometimes that might not always happen. So I'll give an example. So the first New Orleans trip I went on, so winter of 2022, we were supposed to start volunteering at Magnolia, which is a home for adults with mental disabilities. And we came on January 1st, New Year's Day. And so we were there bright and early, 8 a.m., ready to volunteer. And we get there, the gates closed. There's no one in the parking lot. And I was like, this is weird. I mean, they'd opened at like 7 a.m. So we go and we ask the security guard, and he tells us, you know, why are you guys here? And then we realized, you know, apparently in New Orleans, January 1st is a holiday along with like New Year's Eve. So no businesses were open that day. And like right there on the spot, we were like, okay, today will be our, you know, sightseeing kind of cultural day. And then we'll start volunteering the day after that and add another volunteering day at the end. And everyone on the trip, like, that's why adaptability is so important. No one complained. You know, we looked up all the things to do in New Orleans. We did all those things in that day. Next day we got up, we volunteered. So in that sense, you know, being adaptable is very, very important. And also, like in India, when we went, you know, the schedule changed almost every day. They'd, you know, add another activity in for us to do or something in the hospital. And so half the time it was me telling the group as we were about to leave our, like, the place we were staying, you know, okay, guys, this is added into the schedule for today, you know, just be ready for that. And everyone would be like, okay, all right, sounds good. And then that would happen. So just being adaptable, you know, we'll give you a schedule. We'll try to stick to that schedule as much as we can. But if anything does happen to change that, you just have to be ready for it.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing my research, I would get beforehand I'd spoke with the secretary of the hospital and with OM and the general idea of like who we were planning to do the research with, sort of like my main questions for getting everything. Usually the night before or the morning of, I'd get a list with the names of the doctor and their department and the time I was supposed to find them and interview them.
The morning of.
Usually the night before, the morning of. Sometimes during breakfast.
Yeah.
And it would be like 15, 30 minutes out. Then like you guys were, I just have to go sometimes. And after the first or second day, so like the handler who was supposed to work with me got busy. And so at that point, I'm in, you know, Dr. Hedgewar Hospital. I can't read the language. And I'm sort of like wandering around trying to find, with like very broken Marathi, trying to go from place to place.
All you have is your phrases from the Bollywood movies you watched on
That,
the way there.
and then
And the
also our
workshop.
Marathi language workshops. So that definitely saved my butt a whole lot, being able to have like that.
Shout
functional
out
local
happening
language.
November 14th, which will probably have
Yeah.
happened by the time this podcast
Yeah.
comes out.
For sure.
But okay.
Yeah, there's
yeah.
a reason we make it required for all trip members.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because you really need to be able to have not just the functional aspect, but also that cultural aspect. You know, like in Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans know English, but they prefer to speak Spanish. And so when a foreigner comes in and they speak Spanish to them, and it's like good, and even in India where I'm like speaking like really bad Marathi, like I'm making small talk in an elevator with a guy, his face lights up immediately. He's like, oh, you know my language.
Right.
And it's such a heartwarming moment, but immediately you can build rapport with people and make that connection.
Yeah, and that's like going back to like cultural respect, right? Like what we practice on trips, you know, like having a translator is one thing, but you know, actually attempting to kind of talk the language, it's like a whole new level of respect because it tells the person you're trying to talk to, you know, I respect your culture enough to learn your customs. I don't want you to adapt to mine. It's different, you know?
Yeah.
Gives you that respect.
Before going to Brazil, I literally had a 50-day streak on Duolingo. Like, no matter what I was doing, if it was like 11:57, I still hadn't done my Duolingo that day. I was like
Falo
on there.
Português.
Yeah, literally. And I remember when I was there, I had an entire conversation with a random Uber driver, like just in Portuguese, very broken, horrible, terrible Portuguese. But I tried. I really put my best foot forward.
Yeah, that's how you learn too.
It's how you learn immersion.
I mean, he was speaking back to me. He
Hey,
understood
yeah.
something.
Muito bom.
Mhm.
Muito bom.
But I think like be prepared for culture shocks. It kind of goes with the cultural respect thing, but not. I don't think everyone in our trip to India knew that we wouldn't have a shower. It was just a bucket and a faucet of water, and it's a wet bathroom. So basically, the toilet and the shower are in like one room, and so you kind of have to get used to that. We would have like spice for breakfast every morning. Like it's just like straight up fried green chilies, and like yeah, you eat that with your breakfast. I was like, dang. So although it was like a culture shock, it was very like it was fun to adapt to in the end, at least for me. I feel like if you come from that kind of background where like, you know, you're an immigrant or your family like grew up like elsewhere than the U.S., then you're probably used to it. But yeah, show the respect. If they put food on your plate, eat it, because
Yes.
if you don't, especially in Asian cultures, that might be disrespectful.
And it's good.
Yeah.
It is good.
is
It
good.
was very healthy. It's not like the Indian food that you guys have in the U.S. I
Less
think
butter, less oil.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, like a lot of Americanized Indian restaurants are just like sauce,
cream.
and butter. Yeah.
Everything's so smooth.
Mhm.
And then here, like, you know, it's like
Yeah.
vegetables and spice, and it's very
Yeah.
different. So
I mean,
yeah.
it's also important to like go through some of those things yourself in order to understand what
Mhm.
other people
Correct.
who don't have the privileges that you have like go through on the daily basis.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, like the showers, for example, like all of us are used to just hopping in the shower and singing until they forget like what their responsibilities, and then, you know, but I mean, other people don't have the privilege of even having like a bougie shower, you know.
Yeah.
so-
And it actually, with the shower, it's interesting. Like you realize how much little water you actually need.
Yeah, like
Which is
it's
like,
like
you
3
just need
bucketfuls.
one bucket and like 3 buckets, and that's
Yeah.
it.
The-
That's all you need.
Pre-soap bucket, the soap bucket, and the post-soap bucket.
Exactly.
That's all you need.
Gosh, I'm so excited to go to India
You're gonna
and
love it. It's
experience
amazing.
that. Like
Yeah.
I'm so beyond excited. So, I mean, I feel like we can maybe answer a few more questions
Yeah, we can-
before we wrap it up.
I have a few more points. We talked about a lot of the stuff, like understanding cultural norms, language, and traditions. It's also really important to always know where a trip leader is as a member, just sort of have that sixth sense of like, okay, my trip leader's here, da 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 da. Then also where your fellow members are.
Correct.
It helps us a lot as trip leaders because, you know, we have 10 to 14 range of people that we're also looking over. So if you can also be able to lend a hand to be like, okay, you know, I know this person's over here, they have a buddy with them. The buddy system is really important.
Right.
Always make sure you're in a group of at least 2 minimum. So
Yep.
we're staying grouped together.
And also, if you go somewhere, please tell someone.
Yes.
Please tell
Even
someone.
if it's
Oh my
like just the
God.
bathroom, be like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be irritating about it.
Yeah.
Make sure people know.
Because if they don't know, and then we don't know where you are, things can go bad. So, because like I said, foreign country, foreign people, foreign place, foreign culture, we have no clue. So yeah, tell people where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the last thing when it comes to trip safety is our mandatory UCF travel clinic visit. Really cool thing UCF has, we have travel doctors who were able to quick $20 thing, which is quite inexpensive for a lot of this stuff. We can go in, we do a physical checkup, so you know, height, weight, BP, that sort of thing. And then you'll speak to either Dr. Kurbitz or Dr. Siddiqui here at UCF, and then they'll sit you down and they'll actually have this really cool program that has the country of interest, the one that you're traveling to, all relevant infections, chronic health issues, environmental stuff. That's all there and more. Things about diet, you know. They always say don't sit on the ground. Like don't sit on soil is always a really interesting one because of, you know, possible parasites and stuff like that. Things like not eating food if you're not peeling the skin off of
Yeah.
a vegetable, right? You don't want to just eat that completely normally as it is.
Even salads.
Avoiding
Exactly.
colder foods.
Cabbage, yeah.
Water.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Water,
literally,
not
just
putting
water.
not putting ice in your water is also really important. A lot of places outside of the U.S., if you ask for ice in water, they're like, that's weird. But also the ice that goes in the water isn't going to be purified as in the same way that the water is, and so the ice could possibly melt and have, you know, any sort of bacteria or pathogen inside of that. But you'll learn all that stuff when you go to the travel clinic, and then also they look at your immunization records, your vaccine records, and they say, you know, if we're going to Japan, you get your Japanese encephalitis shot and stuff like that. Usually we have Malarone, which is a malaria preventative, which it's in pill form. You take it, I believe, 2 or 3 days before travel. Then you have one every day until you return, then one the day after. And that helps with preventing malaria. I remember I got my typhoid vaccine when we traveled to Puerto Rico the first time. So all that stuff is taken care of through the travel clinic as well. So it's also really important.
They're really great there. They really are.
Shout out UCF.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, big W.
Shout out Dr. Siddiqui.
Siddiqui, Dr. Kurbich, they're great.
Okay, so now we can switch back to a few more lighthearted
Let's
questions.
do an unserious one.
Yeah.
Unserious question.
Okay, so this one is from one of our very own members. I'm just going to throw it out there. So let's say you just finished doing the CSC event, which is a volunteering event we do with IMO, and you ate a whole foot-long cookie from Subway, and you feel awful from eating it and exhausted from the CSC. What do you do to feel better?
Let's break it down.
Let's break it down.
So they work the CSC.
Let's explain what a CSC is as well.
So the CSC are the events that we do to help raise money to lower trip costs at the stadium, where we volunteer with like ticketing and other services like that.
You're essentially working as a security guard. Fun fact, a lot of the security at the football games are students.
Yeah.
Which is really funny to
Get
think
cool
about.
conversations. Yeah, okay, so the member, he finished the CSC, or they finished the CSC
So
event.
he's exhausted. That's
It's
like 8
you.
hours.
You just
Exhausted.
finished the CSC.
Okay, I finished the CSC.
You're exhausted.
And I'm exhausted. I walked to Subway and ordered
12-inch cookie.
I've ordered a foot-long cookie for some reason. You know what? People do have cravings.
Except the
maybe
theoretical.
they were just hungry. You know, the sugar
I
levels
would
go down.
eat a foot-long cookie.
But also at Subway, they don't like cook it properly. It's all mushy. You know.
Maybe that's why you're feeling sick.
Okay.
Okay, so a foot-long cookie.
It is. It's ratified. You feel awful after eating the cookie.
That's true.
So it is from Subway.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So and then you feel exhausted from the CSC. What do you do to feel better? So he's feeling exhausted. The sugar obviously didn't work because he's not like they're not in
Yeah.
any
You're in the
better
heat all
state.
day.
Yeah,
You might have gotten rained on.
might be heat exhaustion.
Heat exhaustion. Yeah.
So what do you do to feel better? In my opinion, just go home, drink some water, and go to sleep.
Interesting. Okay. I think I had a foot-long cookie. I need a comically large amount of milk.
I was gonna say vanilla ice cream.
Yeah. I need like 2 liters of milk to wash it down, and then I think that'll cure me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sarah?
Unless you're lactose intolerant, then you
Just tolerate it.
Just tolerate it.
Yo, low-key, I wouldn't even be in that situation in the first place.
Damn.
Me personally,
Hypothetically, me personally, not eating a foot-long
But-
cookie.
Tea cures everything. So, a whole glass of tea, and then I'm off to bed like a
Tea.
baby.
what type of tea?
There's a very specific Japanese tea that my mom buys off of Amazon. I don't know what it's called. So, I
Okay.
don't know. I'll leave that to you guys. Do some hunting on Amazon.
Yeah, I would literally take a fat nap.
I was going in a different direction.
No, just nap. Like maybe I don't know. I feel like eating a foot-long cookie is not that crazy of a task. I'm sorry.
After a CSC, you could do it.
I'm
You
sorry.
could definitely do it. Yeah, either exercise or a lot of milk.
After a CSC, I'll do anything you. Oh yeah, maybe I'll just
Walk
go
it off.
hit a crazy leg day and just hope that
Throw
cookie
it back
feels
up
me.
immediately.
Like,
Oh my gosh,
Thank you,
that's a good
person who
question.
submitted that question.
This.
That one. I'll ask it. What is your biggest fear?
Why'd you look into my soul when you asked me that?
I don't know.
Jeff,
What is
your
my biggest fear? Okay, as a kid, I was like definitely scared of spiders and snakes. I'm not anymore.
Okay.
Like, that's like a classic one. It's like that primate instinct. We're all like low-key scared of snakes biologically. My biggest fear, I feel like the thing that I would be most disappointed in, that I suppose I'm scared of like failing, would be to towards the end of my life, like when I'm dying, if I have a regret. Like I want when I die to just be like, yeah, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
Like I live my life to the best of my ability. I'm ready to go. And I
Yeah.
think my biggest fear would be in that moment, I feel like I didn't do enough or that there was like genuine regret because you can't go back. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
think it's not like what I'm working towards not experiencing on my day to day, but it's something that I don't want to feel. You know what I mean?
Right.
Wow, I've never heard that one.
Mine is like the same. I was gonna say almost the
We
exact.
talked
same thing.
about this.
Yeah, just like any
on the podcast.
form of regret in your life, or like a nagging, regretting feeling. It's very tough to overcome because it'll always be on your mind. Like, oh, what if I did this instead? But then it's important like to overcome kind of that fear. Like you got to tell yourself, there are like successes and there aren't failures. They're just learning experiences. That'll build you towards more success. It's turning like very motivational. I feel
literally.
like
Yes.
I'm like turning into David Goggins.
Who's gonna carry the boat?
It'll always be hard.
Wait,
No.
Cut
Cut that out. No, because he says that.
Always be hard.
He says,
Always.
dang.
I didn't mean that, guys. He always says that. Legit, look it up.
I was also like following up on that. I think it's also important to be forgiving with yourself too, because I feel like if we failed or if we feel like we fall short, we can be really self-critical. When in reality, sometimes the best that you can do doesn't feel like it's enough. You know, if you're experiencing life, you're in a hard time. Sometimes the best you can do is just getting through it instead of excelling. I feel like us, especially in the medical field, we have a lot of pressure on ourselves to do absolutely incredible at everything, and I think that's unrealistic. You know,
Yeah.
and so when you do fall short, it's important to take a step back and be like, yeah, that was the best I could do under those circumstances.
My best friend always tells me, she's like, give yourself grace. Like, you're too hard on yourself. Give yourself grace. And so I try to do that. Like, I don't really believe in regrets or like having regrets. I mean, it's easy to feel like kind of crappy about something that you could have done more or could have not done, you know, but yeah, everything, I mean, life goes on either way, and so like you just have to pick yourself up from whatever and not really regret it. I would say my biggest fear is honestly just like being unsuccessful just in general, like I mean, everyone has their own definition of success and how they would perceive success, especially with their own lives, but I guess it would just be not being successful, like not achieving my goals or not being able to support my family in the future or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or my worst fear is myself when I'm thinking about
That
the
is crazy
universe.
deep.
Do rumination.
When I'm sitting here thinking about the universe and like all the answers or all the questions we don't have answers to, that scares me.
Existential fear.
Literally, I
fear.
have to be like,
You're
stop.
you're a speck here. Life doesn't matter. I'm just a speck. No.
I'm a drop of water in the
Dude.
ocean.
Camus versus who's the other guy? There's like the one, it's like the guy, Camus is like, oh, there's no meaning to life, but that's why the only meaning is to live. And the other guy is like, there's no meaning to life. Oh, Camus versus Dyotoe.
What are you talking about?
I'm like, dude, this is a philosophy meme, but it came on.
I don't remember.
Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Oh, Fielder, yes. Yeah, I know that name. Well, it's like
Blooper.
that nihilism where it's like, I have free will and nothing matters. That's a bad thing.
No,
Why
that
do
is
anything?
bad.
Yeah.
Or that I have free will, I can determine what I want to do with my life.
Right.
I can choose what's important to me. You know what I mean? And then if
Right.
you choose to do good, then you're doing it of your own volition. And you know
Right.
what I mean?
But I'm talking more about like existentially. So like you have like, you know, that meme of like the guy looking out of the window and then the guy looking at the wall on the bus.
No.
Okay.
Pull the
Okay.
meme up. No.
Jamie, pull the meme up. So there's a guy looking out the window and he's like enjoying the view. And then on the same bus, there's a guy looking at the cliff face and he's depressed.
Okay.
But it's like the same quote on either side, like life has no meaning. Life has no meaning. The only meaning in life is to live.
So the other
Okay, never mind. Cut all that out, bro. What do we just do?
The other day, I don't know why, but I looked up like, how long is a light year? Like, what even does that mean?
93 million miles?
It's
Traveling from the sun to the earth.
And then just
life.
free information out there right on Google. It was like how many light years the known universe is. And it's like
A lot.
it's like 54 billion trillion.
It's insane. Isn't it constantly expanding too?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
disc and it's constantly expanding.
And the
Crazy.
Earth is not even 0.1 light years in diameter. So if you think about that in retrospect to the whole universe, like
It's crazy.
I just can't. I can't. This me right now.
It finally hits
This
you.
is my biggest fear.
I feel like
What are you afraid of with that?
Just like we're so small. Like just in retrospect, we're so small. Like we're nothing. Like the way we perceive an atom is the way Earth is perceived from a universe standpoint. If that
Yeah.
makes
Pretty
sense.
much.
That's true.
I
Like,
think it's a
There's
good
just so
point,
much.
But also, like to follow that up, in the grand scheme of, because I also thought about this when I studied history, right? Humans, anthropologically, have existed around 90, 100,000 years. And so from that perspective, the span of my lifetime is so like minuscule. You can sort of fall into that, like, what's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
But throughout that time and experience that you are alive, it still matters, and those experiences are just as real and meaningful as for everyone else who's existed before us and everyone who will exist after us. So if you look at the grand timeline, you zoom way out, things look really small. But from our perspective, everything matters just as much as it always has.
You ever read the book Horton Hears a Who?
Yes.
Yeah. See, that's
I
like
love that.
that's
I
what
love
the book
that
is about.
movie.
It's like
Yes.
he
Yeah.
like finds like
He
them
can
Dandelion.
swim
living
on
on
a
the
dandelion, yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like you have the whole world there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
it's
same
like-
thing with ants. You look at ants, they're,
Yeah.
like incredibly intelligent,
Yeah.
social. Like they're thinking.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? From our perspective, it's like it's
Yeah.
fine, but
Same.
kind of apply it to like the
Yeah.
universe and Earth
You can't
scale.
control that, so you gotta appreciate like the beauty of like
Exactly.
everything around you.
That's true.
And in my head, I'm like, maybe we're just not supposed to know. Like maybe there's maybe there's crazy things out there, but I think we're just not supposed to know, and that's why it's like so hard for us to answer those questions and like figure those things out, because I just think that we're not destined to know what's out there. What's your biggest fear, Sarah?
I want to go off of your success thing because my biggest fear is that I am successful and I don't have anyone to share it with, right?
That's crazy.
Like,
Yeah.
like imagine all the times that you, let's say, missed out on, let's say, like, I don't know, an outing with your family or asking that special person out because you were so focused on your work, your school, and you're like, no, I got to do this first. And if I do this, then I'll be happy. But then you're never happy because you keep chasing for something. And you realize when you're 70 or 80 and you're on your deathbed, and you're like, dang, did I live life well the way that I wanted it to? Kind of like Jeff said. So I think, like, although it's good to think about life and what you want to do in the long run, you can also appreciate what you have now. And so, you know, if you feel like this is the right thing to do and you want to, I don't know, have a relationship with someone. I'm getting into like relationships because I think like us as a human, we're like ants on a rock floating through space. And like what is our
Yeah.
real mission in life? But we were
Sick.
put here on this rock together. And so we were meant to be with each other. And so I think that we were meant to form like these memories and this history by being with the people and loving the people that we were born with. That's like,
That makes
I don't
sense.
know.
I understand.
yeah. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Dying alone is kind of scary.
That is
Yeah.
spooky. I get that though, because like it's constantly moving the goalposts.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it is really important to
Yeah.
sit down and like celebrate successes and have people to enjoy those things with, because especially now in like the modern America, and again pre-medical, a lot of our life is just work. You know, and that balance can be hard to manage, but having time off and spending time with people you care about is just as worthy of spending time on as working. You know what I mean? Because you need to have that balance.
So moral of the story, everyone, if you're out there watching, enjoy life and make the best out of it, because who knows what the meaning of life even is. So make your own. Define
Boom.
it the way you want to.
Great question to follow up the Subway.
Yes.
Subway
So,
cookie.
I mean, I guess I want to ask this next question because I feel like I'm still trying to figure out, maybe you guys have an idea, but how do you balance like classes, work, social activities, your responsibilities, calling a million people throughout the day who are 20 billion hours ahead of us? How?
I mean, I have a thing for this because one of my friends told me once. He said, anyone who comes to you and says, you know, my life is fully figured out, like I have everything in balance, is lying. It's like a lie. No one has their life completely figured out like that. Because these things happen very spontaneously. You know, your classes, you have schedules. Oh, but there might be a test that you're really worried about. I need like 2 weeks to study for this. Work. Oh, I got a new schedule today. We got a new manager. My schedule changed. Social activities. Social activities are never like in college, never planned. You learn about something happening like 2 days before it actually happens. And other responsibilities as well are just as variable. So it's important, you know, like it kind of draws back into that adaptability. It doesn't only apply to trips, it also applies to life. You know, designate time for certain activities, but know how to manage if that time doesn't go to that activity. I feel like that's very important, especially with classes. You know, you may find yourself designating a certain time to study, but another priority may come up that's more pressing than, you know, studying in that time. So it's okay. You can take care of that priority in that moment. But the important thing is that you remember that that time that you had designated for the class wasn't like fulfilled, and so you should make it up at another time. And that's where that balance comes from. It's never going to be structured. It's I guess it's kind of an odd example, but what I can think of is, imagine you have a balance, right? And you have to balance out both sides. Instead of counting the weight on either side, like, oh, I'm going to put 20 pounds here, 20 pounds here, 10 pounds here, 10 pounds here, balancing life is just adding weight to either side until the scale evens out, not counting. So that's what like a balanced life is. It's not necessarily having everything planned according to like a schedule and whatnot, because, you know, there's so many spontaneous things, so many variable things in your life that happen that you can't control. So it's just best to adapt.
Yeah, we're like cells. Like if every single cell in our body was at equilibrium, we would die. So like I
That's
don't
true.
think every aspect of our life needs to be in balance, because I mean that's just not how life works. Like,
Yeah. And also we're very like amorphous and changing. So in a way that balance is not being balanced. It's sort of like
Yeah.
fumbling our way through life.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, from more like realistic standpoint, I mean, classes always come first.
Yeah.
Always prioritize academics over everything. There should never be a time where like you look at something that's maybe not as important as academics and be like, oh, I need to be doing this instead of going to class or something like that. Because you got to remember why you're at the University of Central Florida or the university. The entire point is to get your degree. How do you get your degree? By studying and going to class. So make sure you prioritize that over everything. But yeah, and like even social activities, like I fell into this trap in freshman year where you get so like laser focused on your classes and stuff that you don't make time for like friends and stuff. Hey, I gotta study. Oh, I gotta study. And you constantly use that excuse, and then like you kind of mentioned, like then slowly your friends they'll just be like, no, he won't come. He's gonna study or something.
Yeah.
He has something else. So then you like lose like friendships and stuff, and that's equally as important as doing well academically, is because these are the years you build your personality, you build who you are, you build your friends.
Yeah.
So you should give importance to that as well.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Literally describing my life. I'm like, no, I have a Malek exam. Please go without me.
Yeah, I think preparation and discipline are really important. But when I say discipline, I also mean being like, I should have time for my friends. I should have time to relax, because that's also discipline.
Yeah,
It's
self-care.
Relaxing,
Yeah.
Self-care.
self-care.
If you just full send studying all the time, you're gonna burn out. And so it's in the same way that like if you exhaust a resource in the short term, nothing's there for the time to follow it. That resource is your willpower. That resource is how much time you can give to any given task at once. So it's important to be able to manage that over a period of time, and preparation helps a lot. I find that I can very easily do nothing for like an entire day just because like I'm tired.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
That is okay. But what happens is if I'm doing that too often, then I start falling behind. And then I'm like, well, I could have used this time a bit more wisely.
Right.
And so you can sort of partition that throughout a day, which I find that's something that I need to do more,
Yeah.
is partitioning when I'm resting, respecting that time. Because
Yeah.
when I'm supposed to be resting, I may be working. And then I'm too tired later, then I lose a day when I
For
could have
sure.
done things on that day, if that makes sense.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Organizing your time, managing it, very important.
Sometimes you just have to be okay with giving 85% instead of 100%. And like, it's good to be like, to put quality effort into everything you do. But at some point, if you're doing so much and you're trying to be a perfectionist, I'm saying this from experience, like I will mull over an assignment for hours just to make sure that every single thing on there is what I want it to be. But sometimes you have to be okay with not being in control of it and like accept that you did your best. And it kind of goes back to what Jeff said about, giving yourself grace, or what Isabel said, and like forgiving yourself. And so I think, yeah, it's okay to mess up, I think. But definitely try not to, how do I say this? Don't be lazy about it. But when you realize that you put your all into it, don't give yourself a hard time.
Yeah. Realize that making mistakes is okay, but also realize that you made mistakes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's where you learn from them. Like,
Seriously.
having experience doesn't make you smarter or better. That's a really interesting thing. Like, just gathering experience doesn't allow you to improve. It's taking time and reflecting on those experiences and learning from them. That's where you grow.
Right.
Well, I think I'm gonna say that was our last question. We're kind of running out of time here. But on that note, thank you everyone for watching this podcast. If you stuck it out through the end, I hope you learned more about us as you're bored for this year. And please come check out IMO if you haven't already. We love you. We want to get to know you.
If you stuck it out till the end, send me a message on GroupMe and you'll get a free shirt.
Tell them a code. Tell them a code to message you.
Get the code
Oh,
IMO.
secret.
IMO 24.
Our name.
Yeah, message me IMO 24 and you'll get a free shirt if you stuck it out till the end.
Dang.
Damn.
That's a good deal.
Love you,
Oh.
IMO.
And drop a
Thanks,
like
guys.
and subscribe.
Like and subscribe,
Like and
comment,
Yeah.
subscribe.
hit the bell for notifications.
He's doing the thing. He's always wanted to say that.
Okay, well, that concludes In the Know with IMO.
All right.
Bye.
Bye,
guys.
So the Rubik's Cube.
You want
We
to do
need
the
the
whole thing again?
Robux cube.
Do the whole
We need the
thing. I'll put
Robux-
it in the
Oh my
bloopers.
God.
Oh my gosh.
I was
Ready?
playing Roblox today.
You're playing Roblox. Dress to impress.
No, I was playing
Just to impress.
the horror
Stop.
stories one. The one where it's like
War
the
Story.
I know
ro-
which one you're talking
I
about.
love it. Guys, who wants to hop on Roblox?
Hop on Roblox. Oh my God, me streaming.
I hope your whole family has a nice day.
I hope your whole family has a very nice Christmas.
Very nice Christmas.
How dare you wish them Merry Christmas?
All right, we're back to this.
I have a very simple question for you.
I'm gonna eat
Where is Harvey Dan? I don't listen to thugs. You remind me of my father. I hated my father. Where is the Batman? He's right here. Let her go. Very poor choice of words. Never go for the head, Batman. The victim gets all fuzzy and they can't feel the rest of the pain. Where is she?